Chapter: Other Worlds.
I saw another world, another planet. I've remembered everything that went on there clearly and in detail, and at the same time in my consciousness there remains the sense that such a thing cannot be seen. Imagine, your mind and consciousness tell you that such a thing cannot be seen, but the visions and scenes remain inside you. I will try to describe them for you. I was standing on ground like earth. There was absolutely no vegetation around me. I say standing, but whether I should put it that way is hard to say. I didn't have legs or arms, or a body for that matter, and at the same time it seemed as though I could feel the stoniness and unevenness of the surface through the soles of my feet. Around me, as far as the eye could see, rose machines, egg-shaped and squared off like a cube. I say machines because the one closest to me was rumbling slightly. Tubes of many different sizes led from the machines into the ground. Some tubes shook slightly, as if something were being sucked out of the ground through them, and some were still. There were no living beings whatsoever in the vicinity. All of a sudden, I saw the blinds separate on the side of a strange mechanism, in a kind of disc floated out slowly. It resembled the ones athletes throw, only bigger. The disc was approximately 45 meters in diameter. It hovered in the air and rotated. It descended a little, then flew up and rushed over me without making any sound whatsoever. The other mechanisms standing further away were doing the same thing, and a few more discs flew over me, one after the other, following the first. Then, again, emptiness, just the rumbling and shudder of the strange mechanism. The scene piqued my interest, but its lifelessness frightened me more.
You have nothing to fear, Vladimir.
Suddenly I heard Anastasia's voice and cheered up. Where are you, Anastasia?
Next to you. We are invisible, Vladimir. Our feelings, sensations, intellect, and all our other invisible energies are present here right now. Here we are present without our material bodies. No one can do anything to us. The only thing you have to fear is yourself and the consequences of your own feelings.
What kinds of consequences could there be?
Psychological ones, like losing your mind temporarily.
Oh?
Yes, only temporarily. For a month or two, the vision of other planets sometimes disturbs man's mind and consciousness. But don't be afraid. This does not threaten you. You will withstand it. Here too, don't be afraid of anything. Believe me. Understand me, Vladimir. Right now you are here, but you do not exist for them. Right now we are invisible and impenetrable.
I'm not afraid. Why don't you tell me, Anastasia, what these rumbling machines all around are? What are they for?
Each of these egg-shaped machines is a factory. They produce the flying saucers that interest you so much.
But who services and runs these factories?
No one. They were programmed from the outset to produce a specific wear. Through the tubes, which go deep down, they suck out whatever raw materials they need in the required amount. Smelting, stamping, and then assembling take place in small chambers, and a fully finished product goes out. This kind of factory is much more rational than any earthly one. There is virtually no waste from its production. There is no need to transport raw materials from distant places, no need to haul separate details to the assembly point. The entire manufacturing process occurs in one place.
Stunning. If only we had something like this. But who pilots the new flying saucers? I saw them all flying in one direction.
No one pilots it. It flies to the warehousing facility itself.
Incredible, just like a living being.
Actually, there's nothing incredible about it, even for earthly technologies. After all, Earth also has pilotless planes and missiles.
Nevertheless, people still guide them from Earth.
Earth has long had missiles that are pre-programmed for a specific purpose. All you have to do is press the launch button, and the missile itself starts up and flies to a determined goal.
Maybe it does. And really, why should I be so amazed at this?
If you think about it, there is not a lot that can amaze you. There is significant progress here only in comparison with earthly technologies. These factories are multifunctional, Vladimir. They can produce a great many things, from foodstuffs to powerful weapons.
How do they make foodstuffs? Nothing grows here.
Everything is underground. When necessary, the machine sucks the requisite juices from underground through its tubes and presses them into granules. These granules contain all the substances necessary for keeping the flesh alive.
What does this thing itself feed on? Who provides electricity for it? I don't see any wires.
It makes its own energy using everything around it.
Just look how smart. Smarter than man.
Not at all smarter than man. It's just a machine. It obeys the program given it. It is very easy to reprogram. Do you want me to show you how it's done?
Yes, show me.
Let's move a little closer to it.
We were standing a meter away from the butt end of a huge mechanism the size of a 9-story building. I could hear its crackling more distinctly. Many tubes, as flexible as tentacles, extended from it and went underground and were moving around. The surface on the butt end was not entirely smooth. I saw a circle approximately a meter in diameter, thickly covered with tiny filament-like wires. Each moved individually.
This is the antenna of the scanning instrument. It catches the brain's energy impulses, which are used to compile programs capable of carrying out any assignment received. If your brain models some kind of thing, the machine will have to manufacture it.
Anything?
Anything you can picture in detail. It's like building with your thoughts.
And any automobile?
Naturally.
Can I try it right now?
Yes. Move closer to the receiver and first force it mentally to turn all its antenna's filaments towards you. As soon as that happens, start picturing what you desire.
I was standing next to the antenna filaments and burning with curiosity. I mentally desired that all its filaments listened to me. First they turned in my direction, and then all of them, trembling faintly, sent their tips toward my invisible head, and fell still. Now I had to picture some kind of thing. For some reason I started picturing a Zhiguli, Model 7, the automobile I had in Novosibirsk. I tried to picture everything in detail, the windshield and hood, the bumper, the color, even the license plate. Well, in general, I spent a long time picturing it all. When I got tired of it, I moved away from the antenna. The enormous machine started rumbling harder.
You're going to have to wait. Now it will dismantle the incomplete product and compile a program to carry out your idea.
Will I have to wait long?
Not long, I don't think.
We walked up to the other machines. As I examined the multicolor stones underfoot, Anastasia said,
I think the product you thought up is finished. Let's go see how well it carried out your assignment.
We moved toward the familiar machine and started waiting. After a little while, its blinds opened and a Zhiguli slid down a smooth ramp onto the ground. But this monster standing before me was very far from the beauty of the earthly automobile. First, it only had one door, the one on the driver's side. Instead of a back seat, there were reels of wire and pieces of rubber. I walked, or moved, around the item standing there. You couldn't call it an automobile. On the passenger side, it was missing 2 wheels. There was no front license plate or bumper. The hood apparently didn't open. It looked as if it was a piece with the chassis. In general, this unique factory had produced not an automobile, but some kind of goblin of indeterminate purpose. Some job it did. It looks like an extraterrestrial enterprise. For something like that on Earth, they'd fire all the designers and engineers. Anastasia burst into laughter, and then her voice informed me.
Of course they would. But after all, the main designer in this case is you, Vladimir, and you see the fruit of your design.
I wanted a regular modern automobile, and what did it spit out?
Wanting isn't enough. You have to picture everything in the tiniest detail. Your imagination didn't even think of passenger doors. You just thought about the one door for yourself. You pictured only the wheels on your side. You were too lazy to put wheels on the other side. I don't think you even thought about an engine.
No, I didn't.
That means your construction doesn't have an engine inside. So why are you angry at the manufacturer if you yourself gave him such an incomplete program?
All of a sudden, I saw or felt 3 flying apparatuses approach us. We should beat it, the thought flashed, but Anastasia's voice reassured me.
They won't notice or sense us, Vladimir. They've received information about an interruption in the plant's operation, and now they've probably come to inspect. You can calmly observe the living inhabitants of this planet.
Out of the 3 small flying apparatuses came 5 extraterrestrials. They looked a lot like earthly people. Not just like them, but everything about them was like Earth people. They were well formed. No stooping, their athletic bodies held their handsome heads straight and proud. They had hair on their heads and eyebrows on their face, and one had a neatly trimmed mustache. They wore thin, multicolored, tight-fitting coveralls. The extraterrestrials walked up to the automobile their factory had made, or rather, to the semblance of an earthly automobile. They stood beside it and looked at it in silence, without emotion. They're probably examining it. The youngest of the extraterrestrials standing there, a dark blonde, walked up to the car door and tried to open it. The door wouldn't. The lock must have stuck. His further actions were quite earthly, which made me like him very much. The dark blonde slapped the door in the area of the lock, gave one hard tug on the handle, and the door opened. He sat in the driver's seat, put his hands on the wheel, and began carefully examining the instruments on the dashboard. Good job, I thought. He's smart. Confirming my conclusion, I heard Anastasia's voice.
This is a very prominent scientist, by their standards, Vladimir. His mind works quickly and rationally in the technical area. He also studies the life of other planets, including Earth. Even his name resembles an earthly one, Archaean.
But why doesn't he seem surprised that the factory produced the wrong thing?
Feelings and emotions are almost entirely lacking among inhabitants of this planet. Their mind works rationally and evenly, and is not subject to emotional outbursts or divergences from a set goal.
The dark blonde climbed out of the car and made noises like a telegraph clicking out Morse code. An elderly extraterrestrial stepped out from the group and stood by the filament antenna where I had stood earlier. Then they all got into their flying apparatuses and disappeared. The factory that produced the automobile, according to my design, began to rumble again. Its tube tentacles pulled out from underground and headed in the direction of the nearest automatic factory, from which tube tentacles were also stretching. When all the tentacles connected, Anastasia said,
"See, they have issued the self-destruct program. All the details of the factory that had the interruption will be melted down by the other factory and used in production."
I felt a little sorry for the robot factory with which I had so unsuccessfully created an earthly automobile, but there was nothing to be done here.
Vladimir, do you want to look at the daily life of this planet's inhabitants?
Yes, of course. We found ourselves above one of the big planet's cities or settlements. The view from above offered the following picture. As far as the eye could see, this entire settlement consisted of lots of cylindrical structures resembling modern skyscrapers. They were placed in many circles. At the center of each circle were lower structures reminiscent of earthly trees. Many of their radar leaves were even green. According to Anastasia, artificial constructions collected from below ground, the components of substances essential for feeding the organism, which were subsequently sent through special pipelines to the housing of each planet's inhabitant. The structures in the center of the circles also supported the essential atmosphere on the planet. When Anastasia suggested spending time in one of the apartments, I asked, could we go to the apartment of that dark, blonde extraterrestrial who got into my car?
Yes, he is just about to come home from work right now.
We found ourselves nearly at the very top of one of the cylindrical skyscrapers. There were no windows in the extraterrestrial building. The round walls were painted in squares of muted colors. At the bottom of each square was a door that lifted, like in a modern garage. From time to time, a small flying apparatus like those made by the robot factories would fly out of the aperture that opened in the lower part of the square and fly off. It turned out that, under each apartment in the tall building, there was a small garage for the apparatus. There were no elevators or doors in the building. Each apartment had a separate entrance straight from the garage, and, as became clear later, Each inhabitant of this planet who had reached a certain age lived in this kind of apartment. At first, I didn't like the apartment itself very much. When we followed the dark blonde extraterrestrial into his apartment, its poverty and bareness amazed me. The room of about 30 square meters was completely empty. Not only did it not have any windows or partitions, it didn't have any furniture either. The smooth, light-colored walls did not have a single shelf or picture for decoration. Did he just get this apartment?
Arkan has been living here for 20 years. His apartment has everything he needs for rest, entertainment, and work. Everything essential is built into the walls. You're about to see for yourself.
Indeed, as soon as Arkan walked up from his sub-apartment garage, the room ceiling and walls began to softly glow. Arkan turned to face the wall next to the entrance, placed his palm on the surface, and made a sound. A square in the wall lit up.
Right now, the computer is identifying the apartment's owner based on the lines in his hand and the pattern of his eye. Now it will greet him and tell him how long he has been absent, and of the need to audit his physical condition. You see, Vladimir, Arkan has put his other hand on the console and taken a deep breath so that the computer can check his health. The audit is over and a report has appeared on the screen about what nutritive mixture he needs to take. The computer is also asking what Arkan intends to do for the next 3 hours. The computer needs to know this in order to prepare the appropriate mixture. Now Arkan is asking for a mixture that can maximally activate his intellectual activities for the next 3 hours, and after that, he intends to go to sleep. The computer does not recommend that he engage in active intellectual activity for 3 hours, and suggests that he take a compound calculated to support active work for 2 hours and 16 minutes. Arkan has agreed with the computer's recommendation. A small niche has opened in the wall where Arkan has taken a flexible tube by the handle and brought its tip to his mouth. He's drunk and eaten from the tube and walked over to the opposite wall. The niche with the tube has closed, the square screen has gone out, and the wall where the extraterrestrial was just standing is once again smooth and a single color.
With that kind of technology, there's no more need of a kitchen and all its equipment, dishes, furniture, and even clean-up. Nor is there any need for a wife who cooks well. You don't have to go to the store. The computer audits your health at the same time it prepares the food you need and gives out all kinds of recommendations. I wonder how much a computer like that would cost if it were manufactured on Earth.
As for cost, it is cheaper to equip each apartment with this kind of setup than to load up a kitchen with furniture and all the food preparation equipment. They are much more rational than Earthlings in everything. But there is something much more rational on Earth than what they have.
I paid no attention to Anastasia's last sentence. I was interested in Archaon's next actions. He continued to give voice commands, and the following events took place in the room. An armchair suddenly started to inflate from part of the wall. Beside the armchair, another small niche opened, out of which came a little table with a translucent, sealed vessel that looked like a laboratory beaker. On the opposite wall, a large screen about 1.5 meters or 2 on the diagonal lit up. Sitting in an armchair on the screen was a beautiful woman in a tight-fitting coverall. The woman was holding a vessel like the one on the table next to Archaon. The woman appeared in 3D, much better than on our televisions. She seemed to be sitting right in the room, not on the screen. As Anastasia explained, Arkan and the woman sitting opposite him had made a child.
The inhabitants of this planet do not have emotions sufficiently strong to engage in sexual relations, like people on Earth. Outwardly, their bodies are no different from ours, but the lack of emotion keeps them from producing offspring the way we do on Earth. The test tubes you see now have their cells and hormones in them. The man and woman imagine what kind of future child they would like to have, his appearance. They mentally bestow upon him the information they have, and discuss his future activities. This process lasts about 3 years in Earth time. As soon as they decide the process of shaping their child is complete, the contents of the 2 vessels are combined in a special laboratory. They produce a child, and he is raised in a special nursery and school until adulthood. They present the new adult member of the community with an apartment and include him in one of the working groups.
Arkan looked at the woman on the screen and then at the small sealed vessel of liquid in front of him. Suddenly the built-in screen went out, but the extraterrestrial remained sitting in his chair, looking steadily at the small vessel on the table in front of him with a particle of his future child. Little red squares began flashing on the opposite wall. The extraterrestrial turned sideways to the wall, blocked the blinking light with the palm of his hand, and leaned his head closer to his vessel. Immediately, new squares and triangles of light began flashing in alarm from the ceiling.
The time the computer allocated for wakefulness for Arkan has run out, and now the computer is insisting on the need for sleep.
But the extraterrestrial leaned his head even closer to his vessel and placed his palms on it. The lights coming from the ceiling and walls stopped blinking. The room began to fill with something like a steam or gas.
Now the computer will put Arkan to sleep with sleeping gas.
The extraterrestrial's head slowly began to lean towards the table, and soon after lay down on it, and his eyes shut. The armchair began moving away from the wall and turned into a bed. Then the chair bed rocked from side to side, and the body of the already sleeping extraterrestrial fell on his comfortable bed. Arkan slept, holding his small vessel in his hand, pressed to his chest. I could tell you a lot more about the technical perfections of the unusual apartment and the large planet in general. According to Anastasia, its inhabitants are not afraid of any invasion from without. Furthermore, their technology can destroy life on any planet in the universe except Earth. Why? You mean our missiles and weapons can deflect their attacks?
They aren't afraid of earthly missiles, Vladimir. The community on this planet has long since learned everything about secondary explosion expansion. They also know about compression explosion.
What is compression explosion?
On Earth, we know how two or more substances combine in an instantaneous reaction and expand to produce an explosion. But there is another kind of reaction from the contact of two substances. A gaseous substance of a cubic kilometer or more can in a single instant compress to the size of a pea and become a super-solid material. Imagine a shell or missile exploding in this kind of a cloud, but simultaneously another force encounters the expansion explosion, and a compression explosion occurs simultaneously. All you hear then is a clap, and everything in that cloud turns into a pea-sized stone. Earthly missiles cannot overcome a curtain of gaseous clouds. In the history of the Earth, there have been 2 attacks from their direction. Now they are readying a third. They believe a propitious moment has arrived again.
So there is no way to oppose them if there are no weapons on Earth more powerful than what they have.
Man does have a weapon. It is called human thought. Even I alone could turn about half their weapons to dust and scatter the dust throughout the universe. If I had helpers, together we could eliminate all the weaponry. Unfortunately, most people and nearly all the governments of Earth will perceive their coming as something good.
How could everyone perceive their invasion and seizure as something good?
You are just about to see. Here, look at the center, which is preparing a landing force to conquer the Earth.
End of chapter. Join us for the next segment of co-creation, Book 4 of the Ringing Cedars series, Seizure Center.